Hello and welcome to the Sias Plessis show. Thanks so much for everyone who has liked and subscribed. And of course, to our partners at Betway. Go to betway.co.za now to take a risk-free bet. Yes, you heard me right. A risk-free bet on the Springboks to win the Rugby World Cup outright. Risk-free. What could go wrong? Get involved right now and check out betway.co.za. It's my pleasure to welcome undisputed, defending champion, Aries bantamweight. I did that horribly. Sorry, Demarte, but
I get it.
I think we get the point, right?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Buddy.
Thanks for coming in, man. It's good to see you again. I obviously see you at the EFC events and you're on commentary with Portuguese. How do you enjoy the commentary? Because I see you get very excited. And often you're shouting instructions too.
Which I shouldn't be.
Sorry, I gave you away there. But
I mean, I love it. I mean, it's I don't have a lot of opportunities to speak Portuguese. So it's quite good to be able to express the martial arts that I've been so, just more in English as such, and to do it in Portuguese, it's cool. You get to really learn a lot of things that you thought you knew. Especially Portuguese things are so different. So it's amazing.
So what's a rear naked choke in Portuguese?
It's called mata-leão.
Mata-leão.
Basically, it's like kill the lion. Apparently,
a
rear naked choke is the only possible way that a human being can kill a lion.
Okay, that's fascinating.
If you take its back.
How
and then
cool is that?
Yeah, but don't try it though.
I'm definitely not going to try.
You're not going to be that human.
Ray, we won't be going near lions trying rear naked chokes.
Yeah, it's called a mata-leão, kill the lion.
Fascinating. Obviously, Portuguese your mother tongue, right?
I guess more English now in a sense.
Now English, obviously. But growing up, obviously Portuguese was the thing. Where did you learn English? Was it in school? Is it part of the education system? Forgive me, I'm not very clued up on it.
No. So I came to South Africa when I was about 7 years old, and I'm 33. So
long time you've been here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I've learned English my whole primary school, throughout primary school and high school, and obviously university. So I've been doing English my whole life, and also it's only at home we used to speak a bit of Portuguese, but obviously now I don't really have a lot of opportunity to speak Portuguese, so I basically just speak English and a little bit of Portuguese.
And your family, do you speak the Portuguese to them or only English? Really?
Yeah, we speak English.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Are you tempted to speak a little bit of Portuguese so that your kids,
Because I used to do work also for Super Sport Máximo, where I did the live commentary work for UFC in Portuguese. In the beginning, it was very difficult because there's so many things that I'm so used to speaking English, and then it was like so hard to actually speak in Portuguese. But it's awesome. I think it's been a great opportunity relearning a lot of things, because the way sometimes you say the words, like you swap them around in Portuguese and in English. So yeah, it's awesome, man. But I think also one thing that I'm disappointed in myself is that I didn't learn the languages here properly, like Tswana, Zulu, and whatever, and Afrikaans and all that kind of stuff. I understand a little bit of it, but I think I could have learned it properly because I've been here in South Africa for so long.
So when you fill up fuel in your car, right, and the petrol attendant, I mean, here in South Africa, we have people who pump gas for us. It's not like other parts of the world where you pump the gas. Has there been occasions where they'll greet you in like a Zulu or Xhosa?
I understand.
And then you're like, fire back.
Like the vernacular, I understand like the greetings and the swear words. Obviously, the swear words you gotta.
Of course, the swear words, of course.
That's the thing you gotta learn first. I mean, I understand a lot of it, but to keep a full conversation, I can't. And also Afrikaans, I understand like few things.
Okay.
But I think in high school, because I went to high school here in Pretoria, and in Pretoria they speak a lot of Tswana.
Sure.
And then a lot of the words I know, but just to keep a long conversation, I really don't know. And I did a bit of Afrikaans in high school as well. But I think English has been like for the longest time the language that I speak most of the time.
So being in South Africa 26 years now, quarter of a century, sounds very long. Hey? South Africa's home, or Angola is still. I mean, you still proudly associated to Angola. I mean, that's your country of birth. But is South Africa home now, in your opinion, or is it a bit of like 50-50?
Honestly, obviously, I'm Angolan, and our family in Angola has such a rich history because my grandfather was Jonas Savimbi. I don't know if you know a little bit of the history in Angola. Is that he was like the rebel leader there, fighting the local.
The border war. I mean, everything that happened there. So.
A lot of South Africans actually went there and fought beside with my grandfather against the MPLA and was it the Cubans, I believe. So I mean, a lot of South Africans have been in Angola actually fighting the war there. And my grandfather, my father was a soldier. A lot of my relatives were part of the war. Many of them were part of the the UNITA. It's a rich history, and I think funny enough is that we've had a lot of difficulties as Angolans, where if you're part of the South, part of the UNITA side, and it's like there was a taboo at a stage where I couldn't say where I was from, which part of Angola.
For real?
Especially because of who I am as a
because of your direct link.
Yes,
I mean, you've got
we're fighting each
Savimbi
other.
blood, exactly.
Yeah, in the
running through your
Civil War
veins.
for so long, and there was times that I've been to. I mean, when I left Angola, I think in 1995. No, not 95. I left Luanda in 98-ish. I left the South in 95. So, and then I spent a little bit of time in Luanda. But back then, I couldn't really say who I was because there were like some kind of
crazy.
transitional
Yeah.
government that they had there. The war was still happening. Then my grandfather they say he was killed, but apparently there's like he killed himself. It was like an ambush, and then eventually, I think the bullet was like, I think he just took his life. Because if you were, I think, to get caught, I mean, you saw what happened, let's say, with a lot of the insurgents. You go to courts, and then like with Saddam Hussein, they got hung, or he was probably
public
gonna go
hanging.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think the humiliation of it all, because he honestly was a leader that cared for his people. And then you know how it is as Africans. Most of the leaders that actually care for the people eventually get killed, allegedly.
It's true.
So
No, you're right.
yeah, so I think the history in Angola, and then funny enough, I had fought in South Africa for EFC since EFC 10, right?
Yeah, way back.
Then I became the champion, and I have many title defenses because of I think who I was. There was a time that they didn't even show my fights in back home.
You kidding
I
me?
promise you. The first time they showed my fight, I think, was after I've had already 8 fights in EFC. I already defended the belt. And then one actually reporter had a show, like they go to the diaspora and everywhere, like to look for Angolans that are excelling. So when he did a story on me, he didn't really know who I was. And then once they showed it on the national TV there, his boss came to him, he was like, do you know who this kid is? He's like part of the...
Wow.
Yeah, so, but I mean, after Dos Santos also died and there was a new president of MPLA, there's quite a bit, it's less now than it used to be because obviously we're not in war anymore.
Yeah.
And then the excuses aren't as like, okay, the country isn't excelling because we're in part of war. Now it's a new government. There's no more excuse for war. Obviously now the government has to provide for its people.
Yeah.
So that talk is not as prevalent as it was. And then more people now are just comfortable to be part of any party. But for me, I've never really like being part of like UNITA or I
no
grew up in
political
it.
movement.
I just came here and then focused on me, try to become a better...
You're kind of born into
Yes, exactly.
into a legacy, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
But you've been welcomed back, though. I mean, you've been recognized for your achievements. So, I mean, now you're allowed to go back to Angola. And
absolutely. I mean, the current government and president actually honored me with a medal for honor and bravery and honor. So I mean, it's amazing. I think they could have done more. I think based on what I've been doing for the country in terms of a sports personality, because we don't have a lot of, let's say, champions excelling overseas. I'm like one of a few guys that are actually doing well, in many disciplines. So I think as an Angolan, being so at the top of, let's say, the sport for so long, winning, putting the flag there, having not gotten that recognition for so long, I think it's good to see that they're changing slightly. I'm actually going to Angola next week again. Hopefully.
okay.
Yeah, get some more recognition there, and then just help the sport grow more, because it's, as you know, it's a difficult sport.
Absolutely.
We don't get paid a lot, especially coming up, and I think we don't get as many sponsorships as well because of, I think, the nature of the sport. A lot of people feel that it's a violent sport and it's not as mainstream like soccer or the other sports. So it's a very difficult sport, and then to be able to excel at that kind of level, you need definitely a lot of assistance, more than what people think.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, as you now progress in your career as Aries bantamweight champion, defending champion, you feel that you almost have a responsibility to educate people about the sport of mixed martial arts, because people still say that it's the cage fighting, it's the human cockfighting, whatever you want to call it. And by being champion, by association to the sport, people will look to you to educate them. And at the end of the day, these are professionals. This is not some bar or club brawl that's happening.
Yeah.
You guys are educated in violence. You're educated in various disciplines of martial arts. And, you know, I think that mindset is definitely changing. Are you feeling that it's changing? I think since COVID in South Africa, my personal experience is when the UFC was the only thing really happening. A lot of people started tuning in to mixed martial arts and became more educated by the sport. So I think, you know, from that point of view, it's taken in sort of a different mindset now. Is that a fair assumption?
I believe so. I think the UFC has done tremendous for the sport. Obviously, there's such it's a great organization. I think more so for its marketing skill, because the UFC has the best fighters, most of the best fighters in the world in mixed martial arts, but not the only place where there's good fighters. But you need to fight in the UFC, I think, to be considered the best fighter in the world. I think just because of the marketing machine that they are and the way they promote themselves worldwide, I mean, it's unbelievable. And a lot of the guys that have obviously fought in the UFC already, they say, you know what, that organization is amazing. And I think going to Fight Island in Abu Dhabi and then having combat sports happening, or one of the few that started, having competitions again, I think it was tremendous for the UFC. And for MMA as such, you know, a lot of people know mixed martial arts. And I think also when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather as well, a lot of people that refer to MMA with Conor McGregor, you know, the kind of superstar that he was and still is. I think it has been amazing for the sport. But I think in Africa as well, I think slowly more sponsors starting to understand that this is a legitimate sport. You know, for myself as well, like when I'm committed to camp, there's so many things that you have to do to be at the top, the top of this sport, and then you need so much backing and you need a proper support structure. Otherwise, skill alone isn't enough. You know, you have to be able to put in so much work and still be able to recover. You know, get enough sleep. You know, eat the right stuff. You know, get the right coaching in place. So there's a lot involved, more so than many other sports, I believe, that exist, because there's already those. Let's say if you're part of a soccer team, there's so many structures involved in there. Or you just have to show up, train, and then the physio here, and then
look at the backroom staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have that kind of stuff. You know, you have to set it up yourself. So I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand yet. And then I feel that, funny enough, I was actually in the sauna earlier today. People were talking about the World Cup and how the African teams have not, like most of them already out, or if not all of them. But I think it's that foundation as Africans that we still don't have in many sports. Because if you look at other sports, let's say in Europe, they start off when they're like 4 or 5. You know, they go to these academies and then they go to this team. They're used to already part of that environment. They've already probably watched Messi play. They've watched Cristiano Ronaldo. They've already have pictures with them. So when they get to that massive stage, it's not such a shock, you know. But if you look back in, let's say, mixed martial arts right now, a lot of us, when we see Dana White, we're like, oh my gosh, that's Dana White. You know what I mean? Like if you see Adesanya, it's amazing.
Exactly.
But guys, let's say like Drake's now, they're breaking those boundaries because they're at the top level now. And then yesterday we saw Drake's Day. Is a nice guy, very friendly.
Around,
you know what I'm saying?
Greets everyone, exactly. Yeah.
So I think in the longer run, with in terms of the sport now, with the new guys coming up, they'll be able to see the likes of Drake's fighting and then coming here, getting a picture with them, breaking those barriers. And then once the UFC starts coming, you know, to Africa, we get to see those guys we used to watch when we were younger, slowly breaking those barriers, so that when you're in that world stage, we're not so starstruck. You're walking out and you see, oh my gosh, that's Bruce Buffer. You're like shaking your pants, you know. I think once that happens in the next 2-3 years, because we've seen this massive, you know, growth in African mixed martial arts. And I think it started back, obviously, in the times of FFM, where we had that massive team where most of those guys there to this point are doing very well, if not in, obviously, Aries and Bokang there with 1 championship, with Don PFL, myself in Aries. So many guys we came from that camp and then doing so well now. So I think the sport has a great future, but we need more teams like that stage where there was FFM, there was CIT, there were some other teams in Durban. But now it feels like, you know, more CIT now in that forefront. But I feel like we need those massive MMA teams again to be able to keep driving that growth for MMA.
I know PFL have announced in 2025 they're bringing an event to Africa, wherever that is going to be. I know there's people who doubt that they're actually going to even come here. But and this is maybe a silly question. My mom says there's no such thing as a silly question, and she's a school teacher, so she'll know. UFC is the dream, right? And even at 33 years old, your career is far from over. Your record is impeccable. It's one blemish, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was needed.
We'll get to that.
It's a good reminder, yeah.
But UFC is the ultimate, and we've seen guys from the continent go to the UFC. Is that the moment when those years of taking shots, the grinding, the fitness, the weight cuts pays off? Even though it's just the beginning of a new chapter?
Yeah, and what a new chapter, you know? It's like
the new chapter.
I think ultimately most guys, you know, that start the sport, we've started watching the UFC. Actually, when I started watching mixed martial arts, I started watching Pride, the UFC, and I mean, it was the ultimate goal, you know. So for me as well, obviously, that's the next logical step for me, is to compete in the UFC. And I'll keep pushing for it. But I'm not going to wait and be like just sitting. Let's just wait until the UFC maybe comes to Africa. You don't know when that can be. So I just had an operation in my hand. My thumb is healing well. But as soon as I can fight, I'm going to fight. If it's Aries, it's going to be Aries. I'm not just going to sit and wait, you know?
Of course.
I need to stay active. And then when the opportunity comes, I just have to be able to take it. But I just can't be now idle and thinking, oh, when they'll come, maybe they'll choose me. No way. So I'll stay active. I've always trained hard throughout my career. I think that's been the biggest thing. And I don't just train when I have a fight. So I think obviously the UFC is the goal, and I know that I have the skill set to be able to do all that.
And I think what's amazing, and Ray, my executive producer, pointed out the other day that the UFC is so much closer. It used to be this incredible thing when Gareth McClellan was there, or Ruan Potts, or even Don Madge, when and you were like, it's so far away for an African fighter, and those guys have kind of paved the way. But now they're very much aware of the talent that's coming out of Africa. They're very much aware of who's doing what, and it's just so much more accessible now. It's not just a pie in the sky dream, is it? It's actually something. And when you see Cameron Simon walk out there, or Dricus, it's like, wow, man. Like, this is achievable. We can do that. And I mean, that must make you feel like, I'm not just working for an African title or an Aries title. I'm working towards something which is the pinnacle. And let's be honest, the UFC is the Premier League, the English Premier League of mixed martial arts.
No, for sure. Like I said, I think in the beginning when we started becoming a champion, the UFC used to be first like the biggest thing. But in the back of our heads, obviously the UFC has always been the top, you know. Yeah. So now when you see guys doing well, we've had a few guys go there already, and then guys becoming like #1 contenders, possibly fighting for titles. I mean, because I think the funny thing for me that I see is that I've trained with maybe most guys that have been in the UFC. I mean, I think from here I've trained with them. Besides, I think the only one I haven't trained with ever is Cameron Simon.
We need to set that up.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
I think
do some rounds.
For sure.
Absolutely.
He's a talented man. He's so talented. Like, he's such a good fighter. His stand-up is unbelievable. His ground is very, very good. I mean, to see that kind of maturity at a guy, I think is 21 or 22. Yeah. You know,
it's exciting.
Exciting. We have the talent here. I think the only thing, like in general African sports, is that we need that foundation.
Sure.
Because he was part of a massive team, and in guidance of a guy like Dricus, he was able to like overcome so many things. I think before he went to the UFC, he went to Abu Dhabi already. He watched one of the UFCs. He was acquainted with the people. You know, like those things are important, because at the end of the day, you can't go there and be starstruck. That's the thing I think that most of African sports, we grew up watching these people, we idolize them, and we get to that point where like, oh my God, you know, you're fighting there, but you're still looking around, you know, So I think the more we break that in the next year or so, we should definitely have more Africans, not bring the debate of Africans from Africa, real Africans. So, but
we won't go there.
Let's not go there. But I mean, from people that are training,
absolutely based here.
Yeah.
Let's go with that, shall we?
Yeah, those who breathe. Yeah,
Um,
we're just joking.
yeah. We'll leave it at
Don't
that.
take it seriously.
Out of interest, you've also flourished in your role as a head coach with the Wolf Academy. I know there's been sort of versions of the Wolf Academy along the way, but where you are now, I think of a guy like Humphrey coming through the ranks. I think of some incredible talented athletes. How are you enjoying that coaching side of things? Does it keep you on your toes because you have to be that driving force? You have to be the motivational factor to these guys? Because a lot of these guys come in with nothing from different parts of the continent. But their dream is the same as your dream. Those dreams are aligned, and it's about becoming a professional MMA athlete who eventually will be a world champion regardless of the organization.
You know, funny enough, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that when I started mixed martial arts and way back in when I was still in high school, I used to coach people as well, like some students.
So went way back, eh?
Way back, I think 2006 already, 2005. When we went to, myself and Marino actually went to the same high school in Natick as well that competes for UAE and also EFC.
Shout out to the two of them.
Yeah,
great gentlemen.
Absolutely, great humans. So, I mean, I've been training and coaching almost my whole life, and that's one thing that I think I'm also very good at is coaching. And then I push the guys, you know. So I've had that opportunity in my beginning stage as a professional when I was still with Dimitri Balanis and Undisputed. Obviously, then when I went into FFM, the structure was so great there, where we have had head coaches like Richie Kwan and then team captains like Norman. The team was amazing back then. I feel that if that team was now where the doors have been open a lot more, we could have had so many more guys, you know, actually doing very, very well in the sport of MMA. You know,
you guys had to break down doors and pave the way.
Yeah,
you know, so there are people who are benefiting, but at that time, I think FightFit was ahead of its time.
No, absolutely. I think, in all honest truth, besides all the things that happened after then, people left and all that kind of stuff, in terms of training and the facility that was there, honestly, it was world class. I think now it's more jiu-jitsu based and everything, which they're doing very well. But that stage when the team used to be the core of the actual gym, I think we had the best fighters, you know.
You guys had some incredible athletes.
Absolutely. I feel that if we go back to structures like that, imagine we have, let's say, 4 or 5 gyms like that. We're talking about
Pretoria,
South Africa. That's
Joburg,
what you know what I'm saying?
Durban, absolutely.
It's gonna be amazing.
Maybe Bloemfontein, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
well, we've got Limpopo, eh?
Limpopo as well, yeah.
Polokwane, yeah. So
I think once we can have those structures back again, but at the end of the day, you know, coaches need to make money as well, and it needs to be something that's sustainable. You know, the sport needs to, EFC needs to go back to where it used to be. Because remember the times where we had Costa Iano was a star, you know?
I just remember, like, it's a place in Johannesburg. It's now not a venue anymore, but the Coca-Cola Dome.
Coca-Cola Dome, yeah.
I don't know. It's had very different names along the way.
They changed
but
the name.
The Dome was the 10,000, 15,000 people. And, I mean, with that fight, there was a Greek warriors,
exactly,
the flags.
It
was mad.
We had
Costa. Must have been quite intimidating.
Those times, I mean, EFC was at the top. Costa, superstar, Gareth McLennan, you know, almost all the guys there by FM. When they fought, they brought a crowd, and then people would do anything to go watch the fights. I think, obviously now, I think they're more focused on just selling the rights of the show, but if we can slowly start going back to smaller venues even, not just obviously at the PI, so that passion can come back, and possibly maybe have 2 or 3 more EFC types of organizations, because the sport is growing slowly in the African space, but we need bigger, you know, to feel that kind of environment like we used to. That's why I think a lot of the times when they feel like, let's say for myself, in terms of like a title fight, I'm so used to that kind of thing, because I would go do interviews, so many people talking to you about a title fight, being under pressure, being the main event. I've main evented so many times for EFC. When I go fight in Aries, maybe they think this guy has no experience, but almost all my career has been title fights. Absolutely. You know, people doubting you. So that kind of stuff helps a lot. You know, so many people going to the weigh-ins, you know, watching the fights, having fights in Manly Main, for the Manly Main, Coca-Cola Dome in Cape Town. Like when I go to Aries,
it was boss.
You know, when I go to Aries, I mean, I think just the layoff for so long and so many things that I did wrong leading up to my first fight back. But all that stuff I'm used to. So when they see you, they think, this guy is just going to get washed. But hey, man, we've been doing this thing forever. You know what I'm saying?
Tell me about the Aries setup for a lot of people that aren't familiar with the setup. It's obviously a promotion that's growing each event. There's amazing athletes who are competing there. But you said you found, because of your experience coming through EFC, that you're sort of used to the big lights and the expectation and potentially the critics and naysayers when you get there. But give us an idea of what that setup's like and how they look after you.
So Aries is a great promotion. I think, well, when I came back, I was 5 years out, you know. There's so many things that you lose that touch, I feel. And then I think the thing that really messed me up the most was my diet, because I hadn't cut weight for so long.
Okay.
And then
5 years is a long time.
Yeah. So when I cut weight and I didn't feel my best that time, and you know, and it caught me, and I was just like, oh goodness, you know, so many things that happened leading up to that. But it was important because it was like a wake up call to say, you know what, you're not the same guy anymore back then. Because the thing with Aries and the French people, they're very patriotic. So they're going to support the French guy.
Of course.
And then it's not just they're going to leave you alone and just cheer for the guy, they're going to boo you.
So when you're walking out,
they'll boo you.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I think when
Thanks for the love, France.
Yeah, the first time I went there, I was like, I thought, okay, they obviously not going to cheer for me.
Yeah.
But they'll cheer for the guy, I accept it, but they'll boo you. You'll understand that you're not there to win the fight. You're there to just be the guy that the French guy beats up. So many things happen in that fight, and I realized, you know what, I got to change my perspective. I'm not the guy that if I were to fight here, I know some people are going to support me, and then some were not. But I wasn't going to get booed for no reason just because, I'm just going there to show up and actually compete. So, you know, so many things happen leading up to that. And then I learned my lesson. I'm like, you know what, it is what it is, but I know my skill level.
Yeah.
Even after being so long out, I've been training with the guys, you know. I've been, most camps that the guys are doing, I've been doing. My regular training, my weekly training, it's similar to people actually training to fight, but I'm just training to maintain. I know my skill set. I know I'm a good fighter. I can strike. I can wrestle. I can do a lot of things. I might not be the best in individual things, but I can mix it up really well. And if you're not good at some way, I'm going to exploit that, and then I'll find a way. So after, you know, coming back and not winning that
What's that? Was it Lapis? What's his
Lapis, yeah. He's actually fighting now on the 2nd of September in the UFC. He's back in the UFC. After that, I was like myself, you know what? Even when I watched Lapis, I was like, yes, he's a good fighter, but I can beat this guy. That's why I asked, after my last fight, I asked to fight him in
rematch.
Yes, but they never gave me the rematch. But it is what it is. But I think one important thing as a fighter is that you want to lose properly. I don't know if that makes sense. You want to go there and fight your heart out, and then if you're going to lose,
giving it all.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I felt that I was robbed of like a proper defeat.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't have minded if I went there and I gave my best and then I had lost, you know? I was like, okay.
That's interesting.
I gave my best, so I have nothing to like be ashamed of.
Yeah.
But
as a warrior goes out on his shield.
Yeah, you go
sort of
properly,
thing.
you know? But the way I felt, and then everything around it, and I was just like, man, I'm so disappointed in myself, you know? I was disgusted in myself, basically.
Okay, but that was a reality check that you admit you needed, right? Yeah. Because you've been on the sidelines for so long. You finally back, and many people will argue 4 years robbed.
Yeah,
and we won't get too much into those details, but you've lost. What's next? Are you questioning your future in MMA? Are you saying, I'm getting booed here. Why must I fight in France? Mm-hmm. What's going through your mind there?
I honestly I asked myself, can I still do this? Honestly, I thought to myself, can I still do this? But I know my skill. Like, I'm a good fighter. I won't lie. Like, I'm not even trying to be boastful or whatever. Yeah. I've trained with the best guys.
I think your record is okay.
Just besides that, I think I know I'm a good fighter.
Yeah.
And I know what I can do, and I can take punishment. Like I had so many conversations with myself, like questioning like what happened, what went wrong, what can I do better, and then I try to go back in my old fights, what I used to do, the mentality, because so many things you take for granted, but it's the little things that add up to the bigger thing. And then I felt like I skipped a lot of steps, and I felt that I was more excited to be back to fighting that actually realized that I needed to go there and fight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You almost got carried away with the occasion as opposed to the process.
Yeah, so I thought I'm so happy now I can fight, so long that I haven't been able to fight, and I know that I still have this fire.
Yeah.
But I was too excited that I'm back to fighting that I didn't realize that I have to go there and fight. And then I got punished for it. And then afterwards I was like, man, I'm good at this, man.
Yeah.
Those guys, I can see who this guy, I have a hard fight with this guy, not really. And then I went back, won my fight against a guy that hadn't lost in like 7 years. He beat the guy that he had.
Were there still booze though?
They're gonna support the French guy.
Okay, so regardless if you're so the hands raised and it's the booze ring out.
They'll support the French guy.
Sure.
I think now there's less booze because some people know me, but there's still gonna be booze, and obviously when you're there, they're gonna be more of his families and obviously supporters are from there.
Sure.
Even the last fight as well. I mean, they cheering more for the French guy because they want the French guy to win. And then, but I understand. But I can see those guys, they're tough, but it's like, no, man. Like I can see some guys. You're like, well, if you fight this guy, you're gonna have a hard fight, and you really have to dig deep. They're good fighters, honestly.
Yeah.
But I just felt like, you know what, I'm a better fighter than maybe 90% of those guys there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's taught me a lot coming back and fighting in France. But I feel like so much more, I can do, especially there. Before hopefully the UFC may come sooner or later, but I'm just gonna keep fighting it. And then also I've learned to not define myself based on just a specific outcome. I know what I've been able to do here in Africa. I know people that have been able to influence in the sport in South Africa and Angola and elsewhere, the people that followed me. I know I'm a good fighter. At the end of the day, making the UFC I'll not now sitting there, okay, oh my God, now I'm like, no.
I've made it.
No.
This
You know what I'm saying?
Pinnacle. Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I understand that it will be cool to get there, but it will never define me, and I'll never go to bed thinking, oh my God, I'm now depressed. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm content to do what I am, and I know it's a process, and I've gone through this thing for so many years, overcoming so much, working with people that helped me grow, so much. So I understand the process, and it's been an amazing process, and I'm going to keep growing. I believe I have a few good years left,
Sure.
in the sport. And then I'm not like I'm an old 33-year-old because I take care of myself really well. Don't smoke, don't drink, barely go out. I'm very dedicated.
Yeah.
So I believe that I'm still fresh. You know what I mean?
So when is potentially the next? I mean, the hand's healed 100% now.
No, maybe 70%.
Okay.
Yeah, ish.
And then, sort of realistically, when are you looking to fight again? Would it be 2024?
Yes. No. I'm gonna fight still this year.
Okay.
They're fighting for an interim belt now on the 1st of September.
Yeah.
I fought one of the guys already. It'll be nice if the other guy wins, at least then you can have a fresh guy.
Sure.
And then November.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think November, my hand should be 100% by then. But even in the fight, when I believe it happened like in the second round, and then
It's not ideal.
No, not at all. And then every time I hit him, my hand was so. So I just told myself, hit him hard enough that it's so for you, but it should be more so.
Yeah, he'll feel it more.
Yeah, he should
absolutely.
feel it more. But there was such good position I had on the ground. Then when I trapped him, and then he just pulled back in my hand, I was just like, no, thank you. Just let it go. So that's the thing about fighting, is that so many things can happen leading up to the fight, in the fight.
Yeah.
But the people there just watching, they think that you are 100%. But there's so many things going on in your personal life, Your diet maybe went wrong. Maybe you're not feeling
There's
well.
a niggle that you've got carrying into, and you don't
Yeah.
want to not fight because you've worked so hard to get to that point.
Exactly. And then you don't want to pull out.
Yeah.
Because let's say, now they've already sorted out your trip to go to France. And then now you're there, you're like, guys, I'm not feeling well. They'll be like, bro, they're never going to call you back.
Exactly.
So sometimes you just have to take that, that L and then move on,
But you're on a nice tear at the moment. And obviously November, we're hoping to see you in action again. I've got to ask you, looking at sort of MMA in general at the moment, and it's a contentious issue, but while I've got you here, I might as well ask. So stoppages are always debatable, and I suppose they get interpreted differently by critics, by referees. At the end of the day, it's the referee's prerogative to decide when an athlete is taking too much damage, and maybe there's irreparable harm that's coming from there. But what's your take? I mean, some referees err on the side of caution because they don't want people to get hurt, and then people say, "But you called that too soon. I was still okay. I wasn't completely sparked." Is it something? Do you think that human error will always be there, in the sport because it comes down to interpretation?
Look, I think you can look at it in a few different ways. As a fighter, for me, looking back in my career, every time the ref would come in and say, if you're getting hits and I'm calling you and I'm telling you to move, I would tell the ref myself that give me more chance.
So you taking shots and you're like, give me more chance.
No, I'm saying like before the fight, you tell the ref.
Yeah. Oh, I see. In the
so when they come in
your
your warm up, I normally tell the ref like, don't just stop the fight. Give me more chances to recover. So you tell the ref like, if something happens, give me more chance to recover. So as a fighter, I would definitely want the ref to give me more chance to recover because I want to win the fight.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, this fighter safety is obviously a priority. But I always feel that it might be better to let the fight go on a little bit longer.
Okay.
So then there's like the complaint, because people are going to complain regardless.
Either
Rather
way.
people complain that you got hits a little bit more, then it was stopped too soon.
Sure.
So at least then if you got a little bit more, maybe the person that lost is like, okay, I got a little hits a little bit more, but But if it's the case of, I think as a fighter, when you just drop and then you could have possibly recovered, and then you feel like you were robbed. But in that sense, now if you look at the crowd, it depends who's saying what. Because if I support a certain individual, obviously if he drops somebody, I want the ref to stop the fight sooner because I want my guy to win.
Of course.
So that's the problem, is that it's like this balance of power or influence to see that, okay, if it's my guy, obviously I want him to get more time to recover.
Yeah. And
then if it's not, so I think it's always going to be where if I like one guy more, I obviously want the ref to not stop the fight.
Of course.
So...
Okay, I see what you're saying. Because, you hear stories where, and in particular the UFC, they tend to go a little bit longer and rather have someone take more damage. But obviously if someone's been knocked out and you can see that's game over, the ref slides in. So I suppose that interpretation for however long will still always be there. I suppose like other sport, I know football has VAR and whatever, and cricket has referrals, but in that sort of space, and I suppose the same with boxing too, it comes down to the man who's in the cage or the woman who's the referee, and they've got to make the call.
And I think the beauty also now with boxing as well, they have the 3 knockdown rule. So if you get knocked down 3 times in a round, the fight is over. And then even in MMA, I think there's less brain damage in MMA because of, if you get dropped, the guy will follow you and then try and finish you.
Yeah.
So it means that you still have to be conscious enough that you can still fight. But with boxing, you get dropped, and then there's a count, and then you already suffer some kind of damage to your brain because obviously you hit the side of your skull, and then you get up
and
again.
And it's a repetitive.
So it means that if you're getting
jab,
knocked down, let's say twice in every round, depending how well you recover, you can still keep going on.
Sure.
And then obviously the damage for that is a lot more.
Yeah.
And then you're only mostly getting hits in the stomach and the head. That's why I think mixed martial arts are a lot safer in the long run, because a lot of MMA fighters after stopping their careers, they're still fine. They're not like,
but that's true. The brain health is obviously a huge concern and something that we have to look into. In other sort of, obviously there's a lot of news with MMA at the moment, but just looking ahead at I've got to ask you, the Dricus sort of Adesanya thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's the fight we all want to see.
Yeah.
What was your take on that? Obviously, you've seen Dricus up close. You've commentated on his fights. You've trained in the gym. Do you think he can take Adesanya? What do you think Adesanya is going to do to try and combat Dricus? Because it is an awkward style, and it's probably a nightmare matchup for Adesanya.
Funny, when actually Adesanya joined the UFC, I was a huge fan of Adesanya. He's one of my favorite fighters for a long time.
Incredible athlete.
I've always supported Adesanya. I think for the way he expresses himself through his style and the way he is as a person. And a lot of the stuff, I'm sure, is not the way he is, like, if you speak to him outside of the cameras, but he seems to be a consistent guy.
Yeah.
And I like Adesanya.
Good human being.
Yeah, I like Adesanya. Obviously, he understands now that's how the the sport is, sometimes the more controversial you are, obviously the more famous you get, the more money you get.
Look at wrestling. There's got to be a good guy and a
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And
So-
I'm sure he's a wrestling fan.
I'm coming with the point of I like Adesanya. Has been my favorite fighter for a long time. I've always said it. I've always supported him, and one of the guys that actually wake up to watch his fights. And and then Drakus has always been. I've known Drakus. The first time I think I trained with Drakus, he was 15 or 14 or 15. I think so. When he came to FFM, he joined there a little bit for a while, and then after he went to CIT. Drakus is a nice guy. Honestly, he's even now to this point, he's a star now.
Yeah.
But he'll come and greet you, very chilled, doesn't have any. He's probably making the most bank out of all of us. You know what I mean? It's like
I'm sure he's doing okay.
Yeah, I know he's doing okay. He's not struggling. He's not the, you know. So Drakus a nice, but that Drakus that I've known for all this time is the same Drakus to now. I mean, is a nice guy. But the reality of it all is that if you look at Adesanya, he's an amazing striker, very elusive, light on his feet. It's hard to take him down, but it's not impossible. If you look at his fight with Jan Blachowicz was able to take him down. I think also mounted him. The thing with Drakus is that he is so strong, and he will be able to take Adesanya down. He's got really good Dawes chokes, really good rear naked chokes, and he's also tough, so he can take a lot of punishment from Adesanya. And then also that thing with him with the nose and all the up and whatever. I mean, if you watch his fights, he will push, you know? Like the way he was fighting the first fights in the UFC, it was, for us that know him for so long, we know that he was getting tired too soon. Probably something was wrong because you could see from his previous fights, he's going to push, eh?
Absolutely.
And he'll even get better throughout the fight. So I think that issue is done with. He hits hard, he can knock you out. He's good on the ground. He's also awkward movement, so you can't really train for a guy like that. So I feel like, in honesty, he's the worst matchup for Adesanya because he can even knock Adesanya out. He can most likely submit him.
Goodness.
And I think the thing is that Drakus, if he can work on his maybe wrestling, shooting doubles, because if you look at Adesanya's fight, he doesn't defend that well, that shot with the double. In the clinch, you'll be able to defend much better because of obviously the Muay Thai and the kickboxing, they'll be able to clinch. But I think he can take Adesanya down and definitely submit him. So he needs to put the pressure on Adesanya.
So if you're a betting man, you're putting money on Drakus against Adesanya? Oh, I put you on the spot there.
No.
I'm just saying.
I'm just thinking because I'm trying to put myself in different positions because
Adesanya,
I'm a Adesanya fan. I love Adesanya.
If he can, he keeps him at range.
Yes,
tries to pick him apart.
That's the plan. He's gonna try and kick. He's gonna try and kick Drakus, move around. But the thing is, Drakus doesn't fight like that. He's not gonna be cautious with Adesanya and be worried he's gonna rush him. He's gonna put pressure on him. So realistically, he's the worst matchup for Adesanya, and he can beat Adesanya for sure. I'm telling you 100%, he's the guy that most likely can beat Adesanya because he's not going to be scared to get hit.
Yeah.
He knows that Adesanya can maybe knock him, but he can take a lot of punishment.
Take shots, absolutely.
So if he puts pressure on Adesanya, get the takedown, his ground and pound is very good. That's the thing, like when I've watched Drakus fight in the UFC, his first few fights, I was like, this guy is knocking people out, but his ground game is better than his striking.
Yeah.
So that's why the most shocking thing for me is when I watch him, his ground game is better than his striking, but he's knocking people out.
Yeah.
So he's got the power. If it's a pure striking fight, I think obviously Adesanya wins.
Yeah.
Just based on the experience, his distance management. But if he makes it a dogfight, ugly, on him constantly, take him down, even if he gets up, put pressure on him, he'll beat him. If it's to put money and you want to triple your money, you must go for Drakus. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But the experience of Adesanya is obviously not a slouch, you know? He's beaten very top guys.
And there's enough tape on Drakus now.
Yeah, there's enough tape on Drakus, but I feel that he's the guy that maybe is going to be the first guy that is here in South Africa and Africa to become a
UFC champion. Yeah.
I think he's the most realistic at the moment, yeah.
We've got a few more minutes here. Demarte, I just want to find out, you mentioned Conor McGregor. Is he someone who still inspires you? Because there's no doubt that Conor McGregor has transcended the sport. He brought the showbiz to UFC. I know there's been legends, the Anderson Silvas, you name it down the line, but Conor McGregor kind of just put UFC on another level. Is he a guy who inspires you? Or is there someone currently, I know Ray's a huge GSP fan, like George St. Pierre. I mean, you're kidding me. The guy's he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But who do you look at and go, man, that's proper. That's someone I want to emulate or follow their sort of methods or something along those lines.
Well, that's just, because
I mean, there's so many,
so
right?
many guys,
but there
so
has
many
to be
guys.
one guy you had a poster of on your wall, or you know what I'm saying, or something like that. You know, like every kid growing up has a role model or someone they go, like if it was a Mike Tyson or whatever it was, you know, not necessarily, but I'm using that as an example.
I think if we go back to Conor McGregor, I mean, you can't deny the guy in the sport of MMA is like one in one, you know?
Yeah.
He's been able to imitate so many previous legends and then be able to blend it and make it his own thing. Even, let's say, in terms of wearing suits and looking dapper, you know, GSP used to do that, very professional. In terms of talking and then being brash and predicting fights, you know, had the likes of obviously Ali, Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
And then I think the beauty of Conor, I think the I don't know if you've ever seen that, if you've ever read that book, Outliers.
I haven't, unfortunately.
So Outliers basically just talks about some people are able to succeed just based on either where they come from, the timing, and the sorts. I think because it's Irish as well. Because the Irish people, they support each other a lot, you know? And then they always backing their guy. So with that, with the Conor McGregor and the Irish, and obviously a lot of Irish also in America, they are able to actually travel across the world to come see you fight. UFC saw the kind of support that this guy was able to bring, and then that brashness, you know, he brought this different, you know, and he could fight. You know what I'm saying? And he could legit fight.
He could legit fight.
Yeah, he could legit
You'll
fight.
say that he can still fight.
He can still fight. I don't think at that same level.
Yeah.
Because I think the hunger is not the same. Like they say, if you wake up on silk sheets, you know, you want to sleep a bit longer.
He's got a couple thousand thread.
Yeah, and it's obviously made serious amount of money. I mean, Conor McGregor, like him or not, has done so much for the sport. Smart guy, you know. Obviously sold his business. He got a lot of money. I think 300 million or something like that with the
Chump change.
Yeah, chump change. I mean, he's done a lot, but when it comes to, I think, skill, just fighting skill. Obviously, the likes of Demetrius Johnson, amazing fighter.
Yeah,
I think just because he was a smaller guy, or is a smaller guy in the I mean, when he was still in the UFC, didn't get as much attention.
It's PFL now, right?
No, one.
Sorry, yeah, one.
Is in one. Obviously, Anderson Silva. But I think my all-time favorite fighter when I started MMA used to be Rickson Gracie.
Okay.
Yeah, in the time of Pride, the way, especially that time, Jiu-Jitsu was not as famous in the sport of MMA. And then the way he just dominated people, I thought to myself, man, this guy is amazing. And also I've been a fan of, obviously, GSP as well, the way he carried himself. He didn't need to do all that kind of theatrics, you know what I'm saying? But he was still well-loved, didn't talk so much. He was pure martial artist. So I think the sport has had a lot of great champions. And at the end of the day, man, it's not just about just the fight. I think that's the thing with Conor, is that he could fight. He made a serious amount of money. He's still relevant to this point. He hasn't fought in a long time. He's lost, I think, his last 2 fights, if I'm not mistaken. But look what he's done to the sport. I mean, he's transcended the sport. I think in terms of that, obviously Conor McGregor. But I think the GOAT of the whole, if you look at MMA as such, just based on longevity, the GOAT is Dana White. Because if you think about it, you never have to fight.
Yeah.
You are rich. You have the influence of all those
former presidents sitting next to you.
And then you've every generation of athletes, you transcend them.
That's right.
You see, and then you don't even have to get hit once.
And he doesn't actually have to do anything. They do it all for him. I mean, maybe he is.
You know,
he's
like
of all time.
Because you don't fight. You know, you
True.
put up fights. You have the most influence in the sport.
And you sit back and you watch the drama unfold.
So be a promoter.
Okay, there's your advice. Demarte Pena, speaking of great champions, you are a great champion, and I have no doubt that one day we will see you in the UFC. I just think you're an incredible human being. Thanks for sharing your time. And I know it hasn't been smooth sailing. There was a period of 4 or 5 years where I'm sure you questioned a lot of things in your life, but you've come out on the other side now. And all the best, and I hope to see you in action in November.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, bud.
Demarte Pena, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the Sias Plessis show. Like and subscribe. I'm not sure where that button is on the screen, but anyway, all the cool kids do it, so I'm trying to do it. But just a nice shout out to Betway, our partners. Check out betway.co.za for a risk-free bet on the Springboks to outright win the World Cup in France. So don't miss out on that, betway.co.za. Thanks for watching.